AmeriCorps services in Green Bay are not going anywhere after many believe that wouldn't be viable following federal cuts in April. Today, Green Bay announcing the local Conservation Corps will be funded for the next year. Nearly $400,000 in grants and $140,000 in local matching funds will support it until August of 2026. Now, this comes after the Trump administration ended nearly $400 million in AmeriCorps grants earlier this year. A notice said the grants no longer fit AmeriCorps' priorities, but they never expanded on why. Wisconsin, one of 24 states now suing the federal government over those cuts. The Conservation Corps plays an important role not just in nature areas, but also in neighborhoods and communities. One of the projects crews focus on is helping with flooding issues.
A lot of the work that we do is focused around resilient habitats, specifically on flood mitigation. So working on riverbanks and stream banks, putting in rain gardens, converting turf grass so that we can use nature to address some of these flooding concerns. So we can not only reduce the risk of flooding, but then if it does flood, reduce the amount of time that an area stays flooded and speed that process up.
While this funding will keep the agency going, city officials are looking for new opportunities to address the reduced amount of federal dollars. That includes considering a fee-for-service structure to help offset those funding reductions. Coming up.